The movie Hijack 1971 began in the year 1969, where we get to see two aircrafts flying around. One of the pilots, Dong Cheol, calls out to the flight leader, Tae-in, to tell him they have left the mission area. Whilst in the air, Tae-in instructs Dong Cheol to perform various serial exercises to enhance their flying skills during the practice session. As they were admiring the scenery, they get a call from base to abort the mission. They see a plane heading north. Tae-in calls out to the pilot on the airplane to turn around the plane. He kept calling base 5208 for acknowledgement from the plane, but there was no response. Then we see a gun being pointed to the pilot of the aircraft's head. Tae-in on his jet goes to look at the captain cockpit, the 5208 base's plane, to see why there was no response. He sees the distressed faces of the passengers on the plane and sees that the captain isn't there, but instead it's the first officer that was flying. Seo Min-soo, Tae-in calls out to turn the plane around as he is headed North Korea, but he didn't adhere. We see the hijacker threaten to kill everyone on the plane, or he turns it around. Tae-in base is ordered to fire at the right engine and enforce the airplane to land, but he refuses as it's a passenger's aircraft. The squad leader comes on command, says twin-engine aircrafts can land with just one engine, and orders him again to fire. The contact informed Tae and realize it's 30 seconds till the plane arrives at the North Korea guest. He actually wavers as it stays 10 seconds for the plane to arrive at the north. The countdown begins for the plane to cross the border and for Tae to shoot. He doesn't, and the plane crosses the border. Meanwhile, the scene cut to the crew chief apprehending the aircraftsmen, Tae-in and Ding Cheol, for not taking shots at the plane, making 51 individuals to arrive at North Korea. He shields by saying he would have rather not gambled with the criminal hurting the pilot. However, the crew chief doesn't really accept that it was a hijack and says it's an irrational reason to give the president since there wasn't any evidence of a capture. He criticized the two officials, and he suspends Ding Cheol and tells Tae-in to present discharge letter. It is said on the news that the return of the aircraft crew and passengers had been declared, and the repatriates will go through investigations. The scene switches to Tae and Ans. His wife come across a defamation of Min-soo, the officer whose plane was Hijacked's name, as he sneers that people should watch the news more as Min-soo's name had been cleared ages ago, and cleans it up. Min-soo's wife and kid were together as the women cook. Tae-in teases his wife as the atmosphere seems jovial. When it remains Tae-in and Young Soon alone, she thanks him for taking care of her and her son, and he tells her not to mention. The scene changes to the hostages of North Korea being relinquished. Tae-in, his wife, and Young Silk go to see the repatriates. However, they don't see Min-soo. The official then makes a declaration that main 39 individuals were given up and the EMAC 11 individuals were not on the list of repatriates yet. Tae-in goes to ask the official what the case is. The official says the socialists didn't approve of those individuals' return, leaving them crushed. At that point, Tae-in begins to blame himself. The case is said in the news, how the repatriates affirmed that the 11 leftover were confined and removed because of their specific skill and abilities. The scene shifted, and we see a year has passed. The crew lead and Tae-in land a plane. The crew leader says something trusting that Min-soo is all right. To the air hostess, Tae-in hears this and looks on tragically. The scene changes to Tae-in smoking as the crew chief discuss with him. The two men discuss about the incident a year ago. The scene switches, as we see people racing for an airplane. In the airplane, there's a commotion where Tae-in, the first officer in the plane, had to interfere. The woman came in with a live chicken and was apprehended. She pleads that it is for her daughter whom she is going to see. Tae-in allows her to keep the chicken in her arms. The plane takes off, and we see the passengers having various interactions. One of the passengers tells his story to the woman that brought in the chicken. He says he was traveling alone because his mom died and wants to go live with his older brother. The pilot communicates, and squad leader says he's going to entrust his life into his hands and let him land. We see the passenger of earlier, Young Dae, stuff what looks like a can into his jacket pocket as in-flight service was going on. He tells the woman that meeting her daughters will have to be suspended. Young Dae sets up a bomb and it goes off. He also sets one at the door of the cockpit. That goes off, opening the door of the cockpit. The captain gets injured and Tae-in takes over piloting. The bomb in the plane causes a hole at the bottom of the plane as the pilots try to stabilize the plane. They manage to do so. Young Dae goes to the cockpit and tells Tae-in to head to the ocean if he doesn't want everyone to die with another bomb. It seems the plane has been hijacked. Tae-in tells him a status check has to be done first, but gets threatened with a knife to his throat, but the squad leader tells the hijacker that it's important to do a status check first, and he will take them to the ocean. Tae-in heads to the cabin and blocks the hole on the floor of the plane and looks for a gun. He orders the air hostess, Oksun, to keep the gun safe if found, and that the safety of the cabin is now in her hands. Oksun goes to get a rope as ordered by Tae-in. Tae-in sees a seriously injured passenger and asks for a doctor or nurse on the plane. A passenger gets angry and raises his voice, but Young Dae hits him and shuts him up, then shows the passengers the bomb to keep them behaved. He reveals that the plane is headed to North Korea. The captain tries to quickly call for help, but Young Dae catches him and breaks his headphones. Taein gets back into his seat. Young Dae orders them to head north. Taeyeon calls to Ok-soon to come give aid to the captain. The captain asks why he is desperate to go to North Korea, and Young Dae reveals his brother was taken there during war and that getting a plane there will fetch him $2 million. A passenger in the cabin seems to be planning on jumping Young Dae. Another passenger agrees to join him. Young Dae orders 2 men to tie up the marshal that was knocked unconscious at the back. While the plane seems to be having turbulence, the passenger attacks Young Dae. He calls for help from the other passenger who said he was in, but was held back by his wife. The man's wife helps him out, which made Young Dae fall on the floor. The passenger tries to snatch the bomb away from Young Dae, but Young Dae gets hold of a gun and gains control. Taein quickly inserts himself into the situation and begs Young Dae not to shoot anybody. He orders Taein to kneel. The woman with the chicken when Young Dae sat beside her earlier also begs him and he adheres, but he still plunges a knife into the passenger's thigh and wipes the blood on Taein's uniform and then orders Taein to go back into the cockpit. Ok-soon then comes over to give the man first aid. The captain speaks to all passengers on the cabin through the public address system that they are being forced to enter north, and that as per the air hostess orders should destroy their IDs, and tells them they will be entering North Korea's airspace soon and pleads with them to destroy their IDs. The marshal that was tied up asks, okay soon to untie him while Young Dae isn't looking. She quickly stops and collects passengers' IDs when Young Dae looks over. The seriously injured passenger hands over his ID to his mute mother to tear up for him while he cries in pain. She finds it difficult to tear the ID, so she eats it and tells her son that she will protect him even in North Korea. Young Dae has a flashback to when he and his mother are at home as an officer barges in. Another officer says they are there for inspection. He asks Young Dae if he's in contact with his brother in North Korea and he denies it. The officer inspecting the house slips in the communist flyers and frames him for having it. He gets hit by the officer and gets dragged off to jail, leaving his helpless mother behind. When he returns to his home, he saw his mother has died of starvation and was already starting to rot. Then the flashback ends. We see Marshall asking to be untied, but the passengers seem to be scared to defy Young Dae. One of the passengers is brave enough to run to the back and try untie the marshal. Young Dae keeps looking back as he suspects something. The passenger is having trouble untying the marshal. Young Dae stands up and goes to apprehend the air hostess. Suddenly, Taein flicks some switches, blaring alarms. During this commotion, the passenger runs back to his seat. Young Dae goes to the cockpit and asks what is wrong. The captain says they are running out of fuel and orders Taein to land the plane. He hits the captain, accusing him of trying to fool him, but Taein shows him the gauge and tells him that they are already in North Korea anyways. He points the gun at Tae and tells him to swear on his life. He then starts to land the plane. As they prepare to land, Taein instructs the captain on what to do and says he will kill them first when he realizes they aren't in North Korea. Young Dae looks carefully outside the window and realizes it is not North Korea. He gets pissed and pulls out the bomb. He gives the bomb to a kid in front and tells him if he lets go the bomb will go off. He drags the boy with the bomb to the cockpit and orders that the plane be rose up to the sky as he points a gun at him. He threatens to kill the boy if he doesn't. The boy pleads and asks the pilots to help him. Taein hesitates but could not risk the life of the boy, so he obeys and puts the plane back up. Young Dae then shoots Taein's leg as a punishment. The captain tells him to stop as he can't see, so no harm should he done to Taein or they will be dead meat. Young Dae says living is scarier than dying and threatens Taein that the next bullet will be to his head. He lets the kid back to his seat. Taein tells Young Dae that will do whatever he wants, but they should drop off the passengers first, and that it will take only 5 minutes. As Taein was trying to convince Young Dae, 2 aircrafts from the Air Force appears. During the commotion, Ok-soon tried to untie the marshal. The captain ordered Taein to turn on the emergency radio frequency. The pilots in the jets tell Taein to turn back as he is entering the restricted area. Taein about to talk into the communicator, but quickly drops it when Young Dae appears. The Air Force are ordered to open fire. They fire a few warning shots. Young Dae orders Taein to cross the border now, but Tae says they have to dodge the bullets first, or they will fire at the engine. Taein gets to talk to Dong Cheol and tells him not to fire. Dong Cheol tells him that the situation is different and that a war could be triggered. We see North Korea aircrafts as they are ordered to shoot down South Korea fighters upon delivery. As the Air Force is about to fire, Taein turns the airplane. The Air Force fires warning shots again, barely missing the people inside the plane. Taein retreats into the clouds, but gets shot at again as the Air Force is about to shoot at the plane's wing. The captain releases fuel to obstruct the jet's view. Taein is about to land on a beach. But Young Dae points the gun at the captain's head and orders to head north. Taein has no choice but to comply. The Air Force get a Fox 2 order, meaning missile signal. He warns for the last time for Hotel Lima 5212 to head back to south. The missile is about to be fired when one of the Air Force jets obstructs the way. He requests a withdraw shoot-down order and says he will force the plane to emergency landing as it is a hijacking situation. Taein pleads with Young Dae to let them land on the beach, but he said he died when he saw his mum being eaten by maggots, so they in heading straight. He threatens with a gun to Taein's head to keep heading straight. At a few seconds to cross the border, Taein turns the plane away. Young Dae tumbles and loses his balance. Taein talks through the radio and advises the travelers to put their heads down. Young Dae loses hold of his weapon as the place is turned upside down. However, Young Dae still finds it difficult to move towards the cockpit. Yet Taein sees him and turns the plane once more, making him loses his equilibrium and fall. Withdrawal from the shoot-down order is requested as the plane is heading back to south. Taein places the captain in charge and advises him to pull the yoke on 10 seconds. He tells the commander he will land when he gets back and heads to the cabin. He sees Young Dae attack him from behind. Young Dae takes out a blade and attempts to stab Taein. Meanwhile, a couple sees the firearm Young Dae lost. The spouse takes the firearm. The chief calls Aksun to be his eyes as he can't see anything. Young Dae and Tae begin to fight just as Taein attempts to hold Young Dae off. Young Dae cuts Tae in the thigh with the blade, forcing him off him. As he is going to eliminate Taein, the marshal gets loosened and shoots Young Dae and tells him not to move. Young Dae draws out a bomb, however the marshal discharges one more shot. Taein begs for everyone to stop and told Young Dae that he will get him aid treatment and that he has to live. He says they just live to make sure no one gets mistreated like him. Young Dae moves towards Taein, but the marshal shoots a couple more times. We see the shocked look on Taein's face as Young Dae collapses. The bomb falls from his hand. But Taein uses a board and his body to stop the explosion from reaching the passengers. Taein is in bad shape as attention is called to the bomb in the boy's hand. Everyone in the plane looks for a safety pin to use. One was finally found and the boy could let go of the bomb. The captain calls out for Taein as he can't stand on his own. A passenger helps him get up to his seat in the cockpit. Taein tells the captain the landing gear is malfunctioning. Taein orders the monol switch be used. Everyone on the plane uses a rope to pull the switch. It works, and everyone rejoices. Everyone gets prepared for landing. The plane runs out of fuel. Taein also loses consciousness. We see a flashback to Taein at home, depressed about the event a year ago, and his wife comforting him. This memory makes him regain consciousness. He finds a way to successfully land them. Everyone regains consciousness. The marshal shouts for everyone to evacuate. The captain orders OK Soon to look after the passengers first. Everyone successfully evacuates. As Aksun goes on to check on the pilots, she sees Taein is unresponsive. It seems he had died. The scene switches to Taein's wife being consoled. We see a real footage of the plane of the incident, Hijack 1971, and the burial of the honorable pilot, who risked his life to make sure the safety of the passengers. The events of the true story are written at the end of the film. The end. Kindly subscribe if you enjoy recap like this. Thanks for watching and goodbye.